Okay, guys, so I'm studying my Bible a little bit. I'm looking online at different stuff. I just saw something with Logan Paul and another guy talking about the Bible. And this man was saying, for this reason, a man will leave his father and mother and be united to his wife, and they shall become one flesh. So, what does that mean? What does it mean when you leave? And when you look that up, it actually means you literally forsake. You don't depend. You break any kind of dependence with your parents. And what it's basically saying is the parent-child relationship you had before no longer exists. You're grown up, right? It no longer exists. You can leave with a spirit of, respect or admiration for your parents, but the relationship is totally different now. Totally different. And so for me, I had no problem leaving my parents. I mean, my father was like, you're on your own at pretty much at a young age. I mean, he did not baby me. And I am thankful now for that. I am thankful he did not, he threw me out to the wolves and let me learn the hard way. And that's how I learned. I mean, he didn't, he didn't baby me. He didn't anytime I got in trouble or something, he didn't bail me out. So that was a good lesson I respect. And, you can be thankful for what your parents did for you and what they did do, and even if they did make mistakes, you still had life. I think even if parents are awful parents, they still gave you life. In the end, they gave you life. So, you can look at that. You can appreciate what they did do. You can, you can call what someone did wrong, like abortion is wrong, but you leave. And so when it comes to abortion, you want to heal up and really be strong, in your own thoughts and feelings. And one of the things with leaving your parents is, if they're unbelievers, you cannot have the same loyalty to them as you do to God. You cannot have the same loyalty as you're supposed to have to your wife. And you cannot have the same loyalty of their beliefs. If you are a Christian, you're not going to believe abortion is okay. And as you have your own thoughts and your individuality, you have to honor that. I mean, you have to honor it above what your parents thought. They were your parents for a time, and if you think about abortion, I think it was more my father's decision than anybody's, because he felt like, number one, I was too young, and number two, I mean, he had a sister that had a child out of wedlock, and he knew what that looked like, the kind of shame that people can put on a girl. He knew that, and, maybe in his own way, he was like, I'm going to protect her enough or care enough about her in one way to say this ain't happening. But yet, and I think my mother, a lot of times did what my father wanted, so he wanted that, and that's the way it was. So, I mean, he definitely was wrong, but you can, sometimes do the wrong thing and try your best. And, you really got to come out of the abortion and say, it was wrong, and get through it, and then be like, okay, it's a whole different ball game now when you're older. So those ties with your parents need to be cut. And if you have a good relationship with them, then yeah, you can honor them, and you can think of them, and you can love them, sometimes from a distance, and you can care about them. But there are other things. It's not all about grandparenting. It's not all about your relationship with them. There are other things. You would treat them, as you would other people, except more elevated because they're your parents, but you would not have the same relationship. And if it stays stagnant, like a lot of people do, like a mummy's boy, and runs back to his mother, like my husband, there's no growth. There's no growth. And you want growth. You want to eventually pull your parents toward Christ. That's what you want. You want your parents to know Christ. And sometimes that's coming out and showing them their sin. And sometimes it's not saying something. So But this is the priority, that you no longer have that same relationship. And that relationship with your parents, as you are married, you are one flesh. This is now bone of my bones and flesh of my flesh. She shall be called woman, for she was taken out of man. So that relationship with your parents would include your wife, where my husband's parents tried to push me out of the picture quite a lot. And that's wrong, right? So it would include, it would not be Ben being, a baby as he is with his parents and wanting the dependence upon them, but it would be, no, this is me and my wife. We are one, and it's a whole new relationship once you're married, totally new. Same with my parents, totally new. So unless you get this down, you're going to have issues with your parents. And God already has it, He has it, just written right out how it's supposed to be. And your loyalty goes to God ultimately, even above your wife or your husband. Your loyalty goes to Him first. And even above your own children, your loyalty is to Him. So, number one thing is loving God, right? With all your heart, soul, and mind. And then your neighbor as yourself. And that can come in a variety of pictures. Many, many pictures. Sometimes, like my in-laws, they needed their own medicine given right back to them. Sometimes love is very tough, right? We see in the court systems some men, who have been involved in domestic abuse, they're gonna get jail time. That's tough love. So there's a lot of ways to love people, and that's where all the discernment has to come in from God. And you know your parents best, and you know what they need sometimes. So, it's all about pointing people to Christ. That is the biggest way you can love people, is by showing them sometimes their sin and pointing them to Jesus and telling them that they need a Savior.